Hi, so my name's Christy Shelton. I'm the biologist here at Prince William Forest Park.
So we're here today about the bear sighting in Dumfries. You just were telling me that bears are a common thing here in the park. This is a park. This is the place you would expect to see something like that. But when they venture out into the urban areas, into the neighborhoods around the park, then it becomes a news story. So what types of bears do we have here in the park?
So generally in this part of the country, the only bears we're really going to run into this far east are black bears. These are generally a smaller bear than most people picture when they think of bears. And they're much less aggressive or scary than the grizzly bears and the big brown bears out west. These are smaller, much more afraid of people generally.
So even as adults, they are typically smaller than the big monsters you might see when you're out west or on TV, maybe.
Yeah, I think weight-wise, they get to like 500, 600 pounds, but like actual size-wise, we're talking like, large German Shepherd, like in terms of stature, right? They're just a lot heavier and denser.
When they're in the park, what do they eat?
They are all about the blueberries in the park. We have a ton of different blueberry species that grow throughout the park, which are just about to kind of get into fruiting season. So that's one of their major draws. Otherwise, they eat pretty much anything. They do a lot of scavenging of our other wildlife because they are omnivores. So they do also eat a lot of bugs and things.
Is there a lot of fish for them to eat here in the streams, or no?
We have a decent amount of fish throughout the park. I don't know that I would say I have any information on how much bears are accessing them. We don't have a lot of like large fish. They're mostly really small stuff in the creeks. We do have the man-made lakes throughout the park that we do know, like in the winter we have had when it froze really hard last winter, we actually had bear prints like across the frozen lake, which was really cool. So they definitely get down in the water, but I don't know a whole lot about how much fish they're eating out there.
Yeah.
Most of our fish are pretty small.
So when they venture outside of the park, what are they looking for?
So generally, there's two kind of situations that lead to the bears venturing out. And it's either, spreading for new territory. So we've had this past year, spring, winter, and then 2 years ago, have had reports of a mother bear with 2 cubs on the northern side of the park. So you get those cubs that grow up and then they want to go out and find their own space. So they're out trying to find a place to live. And then if there's food scarcity, that's when they start kind of going more for things like bird feeders or people's trash cans, kind of those food sources that people are just leaving out without thinking about that kind of potential user, if you will.
Yeah, because a lot of people forget how close we are to this massive park. I mean, it's just maybe the traffic builds a wall you can't see, or you just don't think about it, but it's here and it's in the middle of everything.
Yeah, we're 12,500 acres and we're right next to Quantico Marine Corps Base and their training area, which is a ton more forested area. So there's a lot of forest here for them to kind of be growing in.
And there's probably a lot of them here, more so than you would think when you're just on Main Street at home, pulling your car into the driveway and just coming to and from work.
There have probably been a lot more, closer encounters than people realize. Because like I mentioned, they are generally a very hesitant, fearful of humans bear. So 9 times out of 10, they are gone. They have seen you and have turned off and run before you even had a chance to think about them being close to you. So yeah, a lot of the sightings in the park are generally people driving and it's crossing the road.
Is it rare to get a sighting outside of the park, and like the one we have today?
Not in particular. There are quite a few, particularly the communities kind of right outside of the park, like the Brittany subdevelopment and Montclair on the other side of 234. They get a lot on like porch cams you know, the ring doorbells and things.
Yeah.
And it's usually, you know, they kind of pass through, and you might have a week of activity, and then the bear's gone. And really, a lot of the drivers there again are things like those bird feeders that they're trying to go after for an easy snack.
So what can we do to protect the bears? And you know, if we see one in our front yard going through our trash can, what's the best practices here?
The best practice, the best things that we can do is we want to make sure that they remain afraid of people, because that will keep them safe from increased contact with us and potential, you know, situations that could result in harm to the bear, but could also helps to, you know, protect ourselves. So if you do encounter, you know, bears in trash cans, or, you know, out somewhere not in the woods, and even when you are in the woods, the best thing to be doing is be making noise. You want to, if it's in your trash can out in your yard, you know, slamming your door, banging pots and pans, you know, trying to make some loud jarring noise so that it kind of gets scared and runs off. So we're trying to, you know, keep them afraid of our spaces and us as humans, to cut down on those kinds of interactions that might prove harmful.
Is there anything else that we should know about this particular story that we're covering? Anything else about the park? Anything else you want our audience to know about?
I would say, you know, the big thing that we talk about, and like we put out on our webpage, social media stuff, is just making sure that you're what we call bear aware, that so that you know that they're out here, and that you can kind of learn what to do if you encounter one, you know, out in the park, you know, somewhere where you might not be able to like hop back in your car or hop back in your house, where you've got a really good barrier now of safety. And so, you know, trying to inform people how to respond if they see one in the park. We had a report over the weekend of a visitor who was walking in off of 234, and saw a bear on the trail up ahead of them, and she did exactly what she was supposed to do. Back away slowly, you know, don't turn and run. You're just kind of vacating the area, and then the bear took off on its own as well, and able to continue on her hike for that day. So yeah, if you're out hiking in the park, it's good to have, like, I always have my keys on my belt, so I'm always jingling. I'm always making an amount of noise so that it'll spook critters away. And if I do encounter anything, again, we're not trying to scream or run or, you know, make yourself big to scare the bear, right? You're wanting to leave the area.
Do you do that slowly? Do you just back up? Or
yeah, it's good to back out of the area. You know, don't turn and run. Kind of keep your eyes on the bear. It can help to, you know, kind of, you know, make yourself bigger, kind of arms up if you're like that close of an encounter. But generally, you're able to back out of the area, and they'll take off as well. Otherwise, you know, the big thing is, you know, making sure that we're not drawing them to us. So if you're camping out in the park, you know, if you're not leaving food out, that's easy access. We don't have enough bears in this area like Shenandoah or other parks slightly further west, where they have like bear boxes and all of these things, like a lot more bear proofing in their campgrounds. We don't have that number of bears out here, so we don't have all of those, you know, extra precautions in the park, just because we really haven't had an actual encounter in the park in a number of years. Occasionally they've gotten into trash cans in our cabin camps, so we do have bear-proof trash cans out there, but generally, yeah, they're taking off as soon as we see them, kind of stuff.